The topic of today's lecture is character analysis of Iago. Psychologically, Iago is a slighted man, powerfully possessed by hatred against a master who, as he thinks, has kept him down, and be envy for a man he despises who has been promoted over him. All this comes out in the first 50 lines of the play. Such a man will naturally have a fantasy life in which he can hate those enemies the more, that he may revenge himself upon them the more. So we will try to look into the mind of Iago, that why he worked against Othello, Desdemona, Cassio, and even Roderigo. He was a character that just believed that Othello had cuckolded his wife, and he was the most potential candidate for the post of lieutenant, but Othello ignored him and he appointed Cassio as his lieutenant. And on the part of Cassio, even he was doubting about Cassio, that Cassio has to cuckold his wife. And secondly, Cassio now has become the lieutenant of the forces, and this was the background on the basis of which he hatched a plan against Othello, Desdemona, and Cassio. Here in this play, Shakespeare presents Iago as a collection of unsolvable puzzles. Each thing Iago says is cause for worry. He claims a reputation for honesty and plain speaking, yet he invents elaborate lies in order to exploit and manipulate other people. He treats others as fools and has no time for tender emotion. Yet he is married man and presumably once loved his wife. He cares for no one, yet he devotes his whole life to revenge rather than walk away in disdain. He believes in cheating and lying for gain, yet Shakespeare placed some of the most beautiful words in Iago's mouth. Iago has a reputation for honesty, for reliability, and direct speaking. Othello and others in the play constantly refer to him as honest Iago. He has risen through the ranks in the army by merit and achievement, and Othello, whose military judgment is excellent, has taken him as ancient because of his qualities. In Iago, Shakespeare shows us a character who acts against his reputation. Possibly Iago was always a villain and confidence trickster who set up a false reputation for honesty. But how can one set up a reputation for honesty except by being consistently honest over a long period of time? Alternatively, he might be a man who used to be honest in the past but has decided to abandon this virtue. Shakespeare has built the character of Iago from an idea already existing in the theatrical culture of his time, the devil in religious morality plays, which developed into the villain in Elizabethan drama and tragedy. Iago says, "I am not what I am," which can be interpreted as "I am not what I seem." Iago in this play has the qualities of the devil in medieval and Renaissance morality plays. He is a liar. He makes promises he has no intention of keeping. He tells fancy stories in order to trap people and lead them to their destruction. And he sees others' greatest weaknesses and uses these to destroy them. Iago does all this not for any good reason, but for love of evil. Iago is surrounded with bitter irony. He is not as he seems. His good is bad for others. People repeatedly rely on him, and he betrays them. He likes to have others unwittingly working to serve his purposes. But for all this, as his plot against Othello starts moving and gathering momentum, he loses control of it, and must take real risks to prevent it from crashing. Iago is a man with an obsession for control and power over others who has let this obsession take over his whole life. Necessity forces his hand. In order to destroy Othello, he must also destroy Roderigo, Emilia, Desdemona, and ultimately himself. The one man who survived Iago's attempt to kill him, Cassio, is the only major character left standing at the end of the play. William Hazlitt wrote, Iago is an extreme instance of diseased intellectual activity, with the most perfect indifference to moral good or evil, or rather with a decided preference of the latter, because it falls more readily in with his favorite propensity, gives greater zest to his thoughts and scope to his actions. He is quite or nearly indifferent to his own fate as to that of others. He runs our risks for a trifling and doubtful advantage, and is himself the dupe and victim of ruling passion, an insatiable craving after action of the most difficult and dangerous kind. The greatest 19th century actor, Booth, wrote about playing Iago. To portray Iago properly, you must seem to be what all the characters think and say. You are not what the spectators know you to be. Try to win even them by your sincerity. Do not act the villain. Do not look it or speak it by scowling, growling, but think it all the time. Be genial, sometimes jovial, always gentlemanly, quick in motion, as in thought, as a snake. And lastly, the words of Bradley would tell that what sort of the character the Iago keeps with himself all the time. Iago has not a point of view at all. He is no realist. In any sense which matters, he is incapable of speaking truth. Because he is incapable of disinterestedness, he can express a high view or a low view to taste. The world and other people exist for him only to be used. His definition of growing up is an interesting one.